Hello. This is going to be a slightly different ICYMI, but hello everyone. This is Dan Toombs from ACE Solent, and I am joined by the wonderful fun man Andy from the Atlassian community group.
Hello,
Um,
everybody.
yeah. Before we jump into all of the ICYMIs for the month of September and what is, of course, coming up very quickly around in October, Andy, why don't you say hello and give yourself a quick introduction?
Hello, everybody. I'm Funman Andy. I am the ACE Rotterdam community leader, temporarily also ACE Cardiff and ACE Poznan as I help start those up. I'll leave those to the capable community leaders. Yeah, and all things fun. So Fun in Companies is the company that I run together with my co-founder, Suze. And yeah, just looking at how to make work and life more fun. And after this weekend, I need a lot more research on that topic.
Oh, no, I definitely don't see that. True. I've spent some time with you, Andy, and I know how fun you are. So,
Oh, thank you very
that's
much.
so true.
I'll take your compliment. I love it.
Good. Okay. So yes, as I mentioned, everyone, this is going to be slightly different. Usually, our ICYMIs are done as a blog. We're mixing it up this month. We're going to do it as a vlog. So we're going to run through all of the different main topics for each of the different areas, and then Andy can fill us in with his very insightful opinion, and then we'll get to the main topic about what's happening in October. So let's get started. The first one is going to be on Jira. This one is about the viewing and triaging of security vulnerabilities directly from within Jira. So Atlassian are creating a new security feature, or they're extending their current security tab feature they have within software projects, where things like the sneak integration will go. And the idea is that they're trying to create this more of like the one-stop shop command center style thing for DevSecOps. So you'll be able to not only turn it on, but then get all of your security information directly from within Jira, triage it, and start working on issues. So, yeah, Andy, what do you think?
Yeah, t security, once again, it comes up time and time again. I think it's a highly underrated topic within the Atlassian ecosystem, as it is in any ecosystem, actually. It's quite interesting. Snick's kind of, I think they're part of the Atlassian Ventures, if I remember that extensive list quite out off the top of my head, and they are definitely starting to push a lot more within our ecosystem. I think we can see a lot of them coming up in the next few months to maybe even a year. I think the DevSecOps topic is not talked about enough at the moment, and obviously I think that comes down to, sorry to say the taboo word, but artificial intelligence,
Mhm.
Atlassian intelligence. So how is AI going to help us with security? I think that security is 100% a human being led operation, and something like what Snick is looking at and what they're trying to introduce is definitely going to be important as we look to cybersecurities and all that sort of stuff. The threat's very real. Companies are trying to be hacked all the time. I saw some very, very cool stuff with WhatsApp recently where a CEO was impersonated over a voice note,
Yeah.
and it sounded so real. And it was only just the lack of personality, the lack of keywords that, friends, it'd be like if I sent you a voice message, but it was lacking something along the lines of, oh, do you remember the time we went to the fish and chip shop near your place, right?
We wouldn't have
So
it's without those little things. But it is getting much harder, I would definitely say, to
yeah,
detect. And if you're in a company of 1,000 people, you don't know everyone there. But if you know an acquaintance, then it's going to be really easy. So
yeah, absolutely.
hacking is not necessarily anything about actually like trying to find those back doors. It's so much
Right.
more around the social hack and kind of impersonation hack.
Exactly. And then the backups and stuff like that. There's so many great tools that can help with backup and with management of that. So if
Yeah.
companies have the resources and the time, they need to spend a few hours a week looking into all of this and staying up to date. So
Mm.
follow Dan Toombs for more, right?
Yeah. But just before we move on, I think one of the other things that I think I've seen definitely seen in terms of Jira recently is about how it's turning into this command center. We're seeing more of things like your CI/CD pipeline information feed through. We've got feature flagging information feeding through into Jira. We've got things like security information now. So do you see this like Jira changing its role in terms of how software development is done? Because we're seeing more of this whole like best of breed kind of real kind of command palette style, or do you think Jira is still the same way it was, 10 years ago?
I think well, it's definitely not the same way it was 10 years ago.
Mm.
Is it evolving as fast as say every month or every quarter? There's something so new and so impressive that we all go, all right, that's great. Um, but it definitely still plays its role. And it just comes down to that age-old quote, right? A fool with a tool is still a fool. So people have got to know what tool they're using. They've got to understand its power and its capabilities. I think that's where the evolution comes into play. Once people understand a system in its entirety, they have the right people managing it. They make great use of AI and automation and other areas. That's where the evolution can be for the companies themselves. So the product has evolved exponentially over time, and now I think it's time for people to take care of their processes better and really be on top of what is possible and how they can really use that to impact their protection, their security, everything like that.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. That's some really, really good sound advice, and I love to hear that. So perfect. We will make our way on to Confluence then. So out on the community site, so Atlassian community.atlassian.com, if you've ever been there. There was a announcement. This was a little while ago. This was actually on August 26th, but missed the cutoff slightly from when my last blog was done.
Yeah.
And there was a product manager by the name of Tiffany, who works at Confluence, and she wanted to get the community feedback about the whole bulk importing into Confluence. It's not something that's kind of massively done right now, not like how we have it with in terms of Jira. But are you seeing a change in terms of Jira? Do you think that people are trying to switch to, sorry, are you seeing a change in Confluence? Are you seeing more people want to move, like centralize their knowledge into Confluence, move away from other tools, or are you seeing just trying to again get the most out of a few?
It's really interesting. I think it is app. I think to not answer your question first with something insightful, but then get back to your question, is that AppFire recently did a report. I think actually maybe not so recent now, three, maybe even 4 months ago, looking into applications, platforms, licenses, and stuff of major enterprises. Let's just focus primarily on enterprise for the moment. And on average, an enterprise will have 150 different apps, platforms, whatever you name, right? That's what came out of AppFire's own report, which is really awesome. Shout out to Ed Gale. Both of us big fans of the main man because he showed me that report. He gave me the insight into that, and I didn't know it was in existence at the time, despite my social media activities. And yeah, 150 different platforms. How do you connect them all together? Do you use Power BI? What are you doing?
Mm.
And what I love about companies is how they can always be so siloed. So there could be an entire division completely separate away from the rest of the organization and what they're doing. And that's the exact purpose of Confluence is to bring them all together, right? Even the name Confluence means the merging of two flows, two processes. And
Well,
so
I think it's
yeah,
quite, I mean, like shadow IT is a problem that especially large enterprises see.
yeah,
But I definitely see it even when you start to get kind of medium size and, like you say, you kind of not necessarily get breakaway departments, but very much so like they just work better slightly differently. So
yep,
they invest in their own tool set, but then knowledge still needs to be shared. It still needs to be
it
visible
does.
to departments. And like you say, with things like Confluence, if we can find a way to do that importing, whether it's integration or a change in tooling, yeah. So
Yeah.
what do you
The
use if you weren't using Confluence, and what would you like to see as an import?
Oh my word. What specific to content creation, documentation, I've used Confluence for almost a decade now.
Right.
Depending on the company I've been working for, whether I was on full-time contract or freelancing, there's been some Microsoft SharePoint usage as well, right? So
Mm.
that's got its own different challenges. Um, in terms of the bulk, your original question about bulk imports and what's going on in the online community, that awesome article, I saw a lot of requests from Miro actually. I think if they were to do a quick analytics run through of that article and pull out the sort of the top words and made one of those beautiful word infographics, Miro would come out. I've actually only used Miro sparingly over the years, but it's definitely something that a lot of design teams, marketing teams, they're all using Miro. It's very, very popular.
Hmm.
The Miro, the I can't remember the exact name of it. I think it's just called Miro Integrator for Jira is gaining in popularity.
Yeah.
And then for Confluence, yeah, to be able to bulk import all of those Miro boards would really start to connect companies internally much better between all of their siloed, the shadow IT, as you call it. That's such a great
Yeah.
term. I love that one. And yeah, what would I like to see from the bulk importers? I think one thing I would love to see is a much better connection between the Google Suite and Confluence. So there are some decent marketplace apps already out there, but they seem to be product how do I say individual product focus. So you'll have a really good G Sheets connector, you'll have a really good Google Docs connector,
Yeah.
um, which some people might go, if for the diehard Confluence fans, they'd be like, why would you use Google Docs and Confluence? But sometimes there are use cases and they come up more often than you know. And I think just something that was just a much every time, for example, every time I have a PDF, we just put in the link of our internal G drive, right? And then we don't link to individual PDFs. We just reference the folder and say it is in here somewhere.
Yeah.
It would be so great to have a really, and I'm talking very powerful importer that just almost seamlessly syncs the systems, basically, actually.
Well, I think hopefully that is where they kind of want to start looking with Rovo in terms of like the uniting of the search engine from
Hmm.
product. So we might start to see some of that come through, and maybe as we'll move on to in a bit,
Yeah.
we'll can kind of
Bro,
do.
I really hope Atlassian gets it right with Rovo, and
Yeah.
especially in terms of Confluence, because I think I would say two or three. I think I've got three. There's my three favorite sayings or three favorite challenges with Confluence is one, someone goes to somebody else in Slack or MS Teams or whatever and pings them and goes, "Oh, where can I find whatever document?" And the answer is it's in Confluence. And they haven't bothered to think it's in Confluence. I should go there first. I should search, see how I go. The second one is when you go to somebody with that same request and you say, "I've been through Confluence, but I can't find it." Then you get the link and you realize it's maybe not in the right space or it wasn't in the
Yeah.
right child hierarchy and stuff like that. Um, and the third one is that people just don't use Confluence at all, actually, right? So hopefully Rovo will help make that data more available. Again, huge enterprises need this, but also smaller companies. They're all lost in their data. Where do I find the right information and at the right time?
You know,
So,
I went to SITS, which is an ITSM conference earlier this year, and I'm sure there's a slight level of bias considering I'm in the Atlassian ecosystem, but
mm,
I was also actually, the SITS came almost straight after the Vegas team. So they had
yeah.
announced Rovo, they showed off what Rovo will and can start to do. And then I went to SITS. And everyone, of course, AI being a hot topic, was talking about it, right? But the difference is that the level of detail, the kind of the way intelligence was being used in the product, it was very, very different of what I've seen in kind of other areas. It's not just a chatbot, it's not just automatic
Mm,
filtering. Like this is actually something that is trying to review, understand, and then provide advice, which is not something I've seen huge amount
yeah.
in other areas.
Right, exactly. The key term there, which a lot of I spent many years in augmented reality, and there's not too much dissimilarities in augmented reality and artificial intelligence on its sort of like base, on its foundation blocks. And the key term is machine learning. So
Mm.
it's really trying to put in that machine learning and the great success of what I really enjoyed in augmented reality was when we were doing two-way communication within the AR. So VR is like fully immersive. Uh, XR is mixed reality. So all you do, Pokemon Go is probably a really great example of mixed reality. So you use your real environments, and there's just a computer telling you what you can see and which Pokemon you can grab and stuff like that. True AR is when you've got this two-way communication. So, for example, in the manufacturing industry, somebody can put on a headset, they're looking at the machine, and there'll be this red dot that will just highlight where they've got to go on the machine. They'll go to it. They're an engineer, they've got to fix it, right? So we're talking service management as well, which is a little bit relatable to SITS. and then they'll go closer, and as they get closer, there's a whole, the whole overlay of what's going on. But then they're able to input on their side and say, well, I see that, pressure's too high, or it's got to be adjusted, or there's a, missing part or something, and then it tells the machine what to do. Tesla does this really well with their overnight updates, which is quite cool.
Yeah.
That the factory will go, oh, there's a problem with the spring every time you go faster than 80 miles an hour and you're going around sharp bends. So they'll send an update to the computer, and the car will say, right, as I'm 80 kilometers and I start going to bend, the suspension's got to be harder.
Yeah.
Cool shit like that. So it's really about the machine learning. When something, you said it as well, giving advice as well. Right now, I'm very critical of what's going on in the AI industry, and a little bit also at Atlassian Intelligence. It just feels like automation on steroids. I keep saying it time and time again, but that's just what it feels like, because there's so much human manual input into what the AI has to actually do. But the moment you start getting advice back, if you're an ITSM, or if you're enterprise service management, and you see that, you know, let's say, classic example, you've got too many tickets open, they're not getting assigned on time, maybe the staff's overworked or something like that. But the AI is seeing that, 60% of tickets are actually internal, going to your HR team. The advice would be, change your workflow so that when somebody uses your site, you're actually getting to the right people at the right
Mm.
time. Preferably as well, it just does it, and it just goes, we made these changes over the weekend. Please tell
Yeah.
everybody, kind of thing.
Well, I
Yeah.
think what I would like, I've said this at Vegas, and I'll say this time and time again as well, which is that, change, AI, automation, change, they're inevitable, right? It's just like human nature. We will always find the quickest way to complete a task
Yeah.
because it's about efficiency, right? And whether or not we'd like to admit it, that's just realistically the kind of the stereotype of like the of humans. But uh and I guess that's where they've like the great phrase from is about, give a job to a lazy person because they'll find the best way to do it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think we are on that journey. AI is not there yet, still not within intelligence, but it's getting there. We're starting to see the whole,
Yeah.
in terms of the JSM world, we're starting to see things like the recommended stakeholders, the recommended next steps. We're starting, in terms of software development and project management, we're seeing the recommended issue hierarchy for childs and childs of childs, and that kind of breakdown of information, because it's starting to listen, read, and learn about your business, and that's good. That's where we're going. And I think the next step for Rovo will be in terms of the world of adminning. And again, it's not taking
Yeah.
away. I think what we have to accept is that, there will still be a need for admins, but the BAU is not a need where your admin should be focusing. They should be focusing on the more of the strategic decisions. How will we implement AI? Where will teams need to work together? How will systems need to integrate? And let the AI engine just run the platform.
Yeah.
So that would be
Absolutely. Yeah. The biggest gains for me in any ecosystem, but especially Atlassian, is in the optimization, configuration management. If we think about, you just mentioned it actually. You talk about, if you want to see how fast you can do something, give a task to a lazy person. But admin, you can't be too lazy. There's a lot of rules, a lot of processes, a lot of cleanup and stuff. And I think that the optimization and configuration management is where those biggest wins can be made with AI. If people start teaching AI, again, machine learning, oh, this is how I work on a week-to-week basis. This is how I review accounts that haven't been touched in 6 weeks and what I do with them. This is what I do with my bulk editing. This is what I do with, importers, for example. Let's say someone's doing an excessive amount of importing from Miro into Confluence, have AI flag that so that
yeah.
there's a conversation, right? Open up a security ticket and go, what the hell are you doing all of this importing? We need to have a chat, right? Call gets put in, bloop. There's so much opportunity, because I think and again, it comes back and then it loops. It's like this big giant circle, or what's it called? Ouroboros, the snake eating itself or
Infinity
something.
loops.
Yeah, yeah, infinity loops and stuff. Because then you come back to Rovo and all this data. What are we doing with this data? How do we even view it? How do we access it? What's going on, etc., etc. So yeah,
Yeah. No,
pretty cool.
it's an exciting time. So I'm looking forward to it. And obviously we've got discussing of something about coming up in October, so hopefully we can see more about it then.
Yeah, hopefully.
Perfect. Okay, well, let's move on to JSM, and then we can move on to the hot topic, which is okay. So for JSM, they are starting to roll out uh, what was available kind of in DC with a few apps, but the ability to now restrict certain request types to specific users and groups. So the idea of now having a more of a like a larger portal and dedicated forms, dedicated group forms and things to
Yeah.
those managers. So what do you think on that?
It's something I've done for years already, actually, because the quickest way to get around it was that you just either had another project or you just had another portal page, right? And then you were hiding certain things from certain people. So let's just focus on customers because that's the most popular ITSM group. And then you would say, right, so for that type of customer, here's their portal page, and for that customer, there's their portal page. And if the customer users were smart, they'd work out how to follow certain steps, and they'd get back to the main customer
Mm,
portal page, and you'd see everything in one go. I think this is really needed. I think you need that division. One of my most favorite parts of JSM is setting up the customers' organizations and making sure that people are really in there, registered with their own accounts and stuff. It keeps it nice and clean. And so yeah, to be able to say to specific people, great example would be escalations, for example. Let's say you've got a senior VP on the customer side and they've got like 40 tickets open and it's not going well. And there needs to be an escalation. Yeah, let's say you can give a request ticket to just that VP who triggers it, their email. It says only, joeblogs at customer.com. And it starts a whole escalation path. And, you go from reviewing your dashboards and looking at, oh, yeah, 40 tickets for one customer, what's really going on, to suddenly a VP knowing they have the power to go, I need some action on this, right? And then it goes VP to VP level and changes the nature of the game. So I'm really looking forward to that. To be fair though, I mean everyone knows me. I'm a little bit of a poster boy of Atlassians, at the same time one of their biggest critics. So this is way too late. But if we get there, at least better late than never. So
yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Perfect. Okay, so in terms of the other category that we usually have, Andy, we usually look at the admin, the kind of that admin.atlassian.com area.
yeah,
With kind of no changes actually, into no major changes in terms of
no,
last couple of months in there. So we're gonna move straight on to what's coming in October, which is
yep,
Team for Europe. I
so
know
exciting.
exactly. I know that
Yeah.
we're both at Vegas and we've spoken about a few things before, but what's your thoughts on the surprise event in October?
Do you want my unadulterated, unfiltered?
I would love the true fun, man.
I think it's utterly ridiculous, and I think Atlassian has made a very, very bad strategic decision. I have toyed with doing a whole vlog cast on this entire subject because I can talk about it for hours about event. I mean, I've won awards for different industries for events and stuff, right? So I think they're super tone deaf to both customers and partners. I think that they've completely missed the mark. A 3-day event makes no sense whatsoever. It's utterly bonkers. And then comparing it as well to last year, super successful Unleash in Berlin at the beginning of the year,
Mhm.
2-day event, followed up with very, very successful high velocity down in Sydney, combined with loads of these satellite ACEs, Atlassian community
Yeah.
events, across the world. And then the same again for Unleashed, 2-day event in Amsterdam, and then the A satellite events. It went on for months. Really good for more that local geographic sort of positioning. I have heard rumors that this was a big CMO instruction. We need to do more in Europe. We should also bring Summit to Europe and everything like that. And I don't decry them for trying, definitely not, because so many people from Europe's APAC as well just can't get to Vegas for the big one. So why not bring the big one back again?
Yeah.
But it has been a while. Summit 2018, Barcelona was now 6 years ago. Obviously, COVID in between, which doesn't help. And yet it's just too it's what you and I do events all the time, and we know that if you don't publish on time, if you don't get the sponsors involved on time, it's just stress, low numbers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
um
It was definitely a surprise. I will give you that.
Yeah, for sure.
None of us
Yeah.
saw it coming, and I think that's definitely changed the game in terms of who and how and what sponsors and which customers and all those.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely put it's all and to be honest with you, I mean you can just ask my co-founder and all the people that work for me in Fun Inc. Like mistakes are fine, right? We have to note them down, do our retros, learn from them. Fun Inc. makes mistakes all the time. It's hilarious. I love it. And so it's kind of sort of I am shocked how such a big company has made such an error in it. On the one hand, there will be some customers there who will appreciate the fact that they're now getting their updates. Think it was yeah, Nick Morgan from Adaptivist probably said it best because when we were all together, I think June 13th, when all these rumors of something coming was flying around and everyone's sitting there around, we'd finished the event, we were walking to after event drinks and everyone's complaining like, oh, it's the same old updates, not much is going to happen, nothing really new or blah. And it was Nick who just went, yeah, but for the people who couldn't get to Vegas, for the people who don't live on social media like most of us nerds, not going to the aces, not involved, da da da. They heads down, they're doing their work, whatever.
It's a good
It
option.
is going to be insightful for them and it is going to be really valuable. So on that aspect, yeah, definitely do more in Europe, definitely do more in APAC. And so the intention's good. You can only commend them on that. Execution, not so, not ideal. Just learn from it and move on. So
Do you
yeah.
think that we will start to move back to what they originally wanted to do all those many moons ago, where it kind of flipped between America and Europe?
Maybe, and if Atlassian ever watches this, my advice is no, don't do that. So
Really?
I also, oh, yeah, yeah, definitely. What I had thought, because they were so successful with what we had noticed is post-corona, the Summit, now team, was getting less and less popular. And but High Velocity and Unleash
They were very
as events programs, it wasn't just one event, it was this whole whatever kicking off. I thought they were going to go down the route that they would take their four main topics. So DevOps, which is Unleash, Agile DevOps, I should say correctly, Unleash, ITSM, ESM, which is
well.
high velocity, the work life, which kind of had a bit of a hiccup for various reasons, which I won't go into. I'll leave Chris Cook to do that in the stand-up comedy hour about 5% and all that sort of stuff. And the fourth one being cloud migrations and sort of, security, which would involve important stuff about security and on-prem. And I thought they were going to build more of these 1 or 2 day events, and then they'll build ACE satellites around it or team tours, which were very successful, very popular. They've also attempted the slightly smaller opens. So pre-corona time, they had Vienna Open, Boston Open. I think Sydney was the other one. Pretty sure it was Sydney Open. And I thought they would just take 4 events a year or something and just go around the world, different geographies, different
Mhm.
cities and stuff, because their numbers are going down, which is not a bad thing per se. But the outreach when suddenly someone says, "Oh my gosh, I'm in Dublin and there was a full day Atlassian event," that's so cool because normally I can't get to Vegas. So that to me is I think where Atlassian was going. So they shocked me with this sudden European summit. So big, so huge, so expensive for everybody, customers and partners alike. And I don't think they should do a summit US Europe twice a year, or even
I
old
don't think twice a year. I was more thinking every other because
every other. Yeah, I don't think that would work either because just in general, the American market's so huge.
it's very
But
true.
I think a huge reevaluation of the strategy. Look at what's going on in the different parts of the world, where they're most popular, where they're not popular, how to identify how events could help with that outreach and everything. You're going to get people from the US, from Canada, South America also going, well, Anaheim, for, flights, hotel, conference ticket. I have to convince my boss always, blah, blah, blah. But if there was suddenly something happening in, Austin, where they also have a nice office, right? For a 2 day event, yeah, that would be cracking. So yeah, definitely not every other year, definitely not twice a year. But yeah, there's definitely opportunity for a huge strategy to come up with something cool.
Yeah, fair. So moving, since it is around the corner, and regardless of how shocked I know that the community certainly were when we saw certain elements come through on that Slack channel.
Yeah.
Do you think that we're going to see a lot of the same content, or do you think that actually we're going to start to see some breakaways in terms of some additional Rovo information? If when you look at the schedule, which is now released on the website, so you can go to the event website, Team 24 Europe. Um, when you look at those speaker sessions, a lot of them are focused about how to responsibly and ethically do AI, and
Yeah.
they are different to what they were in Vegas.
Yeah, they are looking different. It's definitely Atlassian's definitely done well in that regard to say let's not just do the same old updates. But it is almost what is it? It's like 6 months on now, officially end of April, right? So we're almost 6 months on, and they have to do something slightly different. What I'm most looking forward to, and I really hope that they have this in. It looks like they're going to have it in their different keynotes. Definitely better updates on Loom and Rovo because although they were nicely announced and there's been some early access programs and sort of community leaders having their own groups and stuff like that, really important to make sure that there's some good updates on what's going on. What could be done with Loom in terms of the AI is really cool. Like that auto scrubbing, removing stop words like and and the pauses and stuff so that if you record an important message for colleagues for 8 minutes, but it gets turned into 3 minutes, that sort of stuff. I'm really looking forward to that one.
Well, I think
Um,
we'll also see the announcement of Loom in Confluence. We
yeah,
sat
exactly.
weeks about how it's going to be introduced, and you and I have heard a few rumors every now and then. But I think that'd be a great addition from a knowledge perspective. Not everyone
Yeah,
consumes through reading and writing, so
right.
having the ability to present video, like video information, that's going to massively
Yeah.
increase
It's
confidence in the
I've
book.
always loved Confluences. I don't know how many years they've had it now, but I've always loved their sort of marketing motto with that meeting could have been a Confluence page.
Yeah,
And now I've run very successful programs using Confluence because I've done a video weekly update, and then there's been a section for Q&A. And it's interesting how in previous companies, if that was just a weekly update report, people aren't reading it, but for
yeah.
some reason people do absorb content and video much better, especially if you
Yes.
take away, say again.
I think it's the asynchronous though,
Yeah,
because
yeah, it's
you do that on your
asynchronous.
time,
Yeah.
right? You're not forcing everyone to be on an hour call and listen to you.
Yeah.
Reading it.
Yeah. I
And I
mean, how
think,
many times, if you were to go into every meeting for the next 3 weeks and go, "Hi everyone, have you seen that report on Confluence?" No one, right? No one's seen it, no one's read it, no one cares. But if you remove an hour meeting from their schedule and you say, "You must watch this 5 minute video. I need Q&A on that page," the engagement goes up massively with that. Yeah, it's definitely about the asynchronous
awesome.
collaboration.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, is there anything in particular that you think you may hear and that you're kind of excited to hear, or you kind of not sure what will come out?
I when we first heard the rumors something was coming in June, I started just talking about the fact that oh, they're finally ready to announce the sunsetting of data center.
Oh,
So I've had a lot of Atlassians go, no, that won't be mentioned at Euro Team. Thank you very much.
yeah.
Fun, man. So I'd be very excited if they did announce the sunsetting of data center, but I don't think they're ready for that one yet. But
Hmm.
I'm definitely very excited for um updates on Atlassian Guard. So for those who don't know, and actually there's no major changes. You just said a few minutes ago, there's no major changes in the admin ecosystem right now, but at Vegas there was the big one that they've combined Beacon and Access together, and Atlassian Guard is now the main product. And I'm really excited about new updates in that one. We talked earlier at the start of this about security, about SNCC. And so, yeah, how is Atlassian Guard going? What updates are coming for that? Because there has to be a load. So that would be really
I
interesting.
do think that the reason we're not seeing maybe some is because maybe they're holding some back. I will admit that. But we've seen over the last 6 months about, some of these things that kind of came out of Vegas kind of coming into fruition. We've seen better data
Yeah.
classifications. We've seen better control on security about exporting and importing into tools. We've started to even see things like you talk about the old beacon elements, which is credit card, passport checks in terms of information, immediately alerting those, looking for issue scrolling or page scrolling for information. Those are all really key pieces of information, not just the security, like any admin or any security needs to know. Because if
Yep.
you don't know about them, how can you protect against them?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, totally. Yeah,
Amazing.
couldn't agree more. And I'm also very excited. I mean, we should not forget that there are some customer talks as well. So there's some really good ones, focused on processes, fixing siloed departments and stuff like that. So yeah, it's really the customer talks are looking really exciting. One of them's heavily focused on AI, but the rest aren't, which I think is quite insightful for the whole, is AI cool? Is it the future? Yes or no? So yeah,
All
yeah.
right. Well, thank you very much, Andy, for your
Very
time.
welcome. Thanks for
I've
the invite.
really
This was
enjoyed
awesome.
this. And
Cool.
I will see you in,
2 weeks.
I will see you very, very shortly.
Yeah,
Uh,
crazy.
yeah. And
All right then.
maybe we can do a bit of an update while we're out there.
Sure things. Excellent. Thanks,
All right.
Dan.
No worries. Thank
Take
you.
care. Cheers. Bye.